Why always feel like I've been knowing you since AD 99999? Why come God gave you a smile that turned back time? Who gave us leave to love like this? So we insane. Grandma loved granddaddy even after he forgot our names. Where they do that at? Guess we better find a new planet. How they get like that? Happens sometimes, you can't plan it. Leave me breadcrumbs for the ride to guide me back. Leave me breadcrumbs for the ride to guide me back. Leave me breadcrumbs for the ride to guide me back. Leave me breadcrumbs for the ride to guide me.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the third cohort of the Earthseed Black Family Archive Project Showcase. I'm so excited to jump in, but before I do, let me introduce you to myself. My name is Jashauna Wally. I use she and her pronouns, and I am the founder of the Earthseed Black Family Archive Project. Thank you to all of you for joining us today to celebrate these cohort members and their ancestors. Please let us know where you're tuning in from, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. Where in the world are you tuning in from? And what ancestors are you holding in your heart as you show up today? Thank you to all of your ancestors for joining us today. Thank you to the amazing tech team for making all of this magic happen. Thank you, LaShonda. Thank you, Jalen. Thank you, Nisha and Jordan of the Kinkofa team for all of your amazing support in holding us down and keeping us lifted in these interwebs. And thank you to the wonderful cohort members that you will get a chance to meet, that I've had a chance to build with over the next, from the last 7 months. It's just been an amazing experience to know them. So thank y'all for saying yes to your ancestral calling. Thank you to your ancestors for guiding you to the Earthseed Black Family Archive Project, Cohort 3. And thank you to my honorable and elevated ancestors for trusting me with their vision, with their calling, and for blessing me and guiding me along the way. I want to take this time to lift up and thank our collective ancestor, the Honorable Octavia Butler, whose work has been a pivotal standing point and guiding post for me, whose work is a sacred text, particularly the Parable series for the Earthseed Project. And I just want to take a moment to honor her in that impact. If you have not read her work, if you have not read the Parable series, I absolutely encourage you to do so, particularly during these times. As I said, it is a pivotal sacred text to me. And I won't give too much away about the story, but it is relevant for me in this moment because it is a story about what it means and looks like to believe that ancestors are real, and to believe and trust in their guidance, particularly through the fall of an empire, and what it means to survive the aftermath of that. At the end of the first half of that story, you have a group of travelers that have been together for however much time, going through a treacherous journey of survival. And they come to an opening in a forest and decide that this opening is going to be their resting place. It is not a permanent home, but it is some place where they can make home for now. It's a place where they can heal their wounds. It's a place where they have restored their faith. It's a place where they remembered all of those whom they lost. And where they get to give themselves permission to experience the joys of living with each other and surviving all that they have survived. It's from this clearing and what they call the Acorn community that the Earthseed Black Family Archive Project is situated. I see this place as a gathering place for Black folks who are interested in delving into the past, who are committed to healing, and who are daring to create liberated futures, not just for themselves, not just for us in this moment, but as a way to honor the ancestors that have done so much along the way to support them to get to this point. This showcase is an offering to you all. It's a representation of the work and works created. It's a representation of the collective ancestors that showed up during our time over the last 7 months. And it's a portal for you to step into. Hopefully, somewhere along the way, you'll find your own voice. You'll remember the importance of your own family history, and you'll be encouraged to create a liberated future from what you learn. We'll open from with a portal, letting us into an Afro trance future soundscape with Amari. Then Jasmine's going to give us a soft place to land with her family quilting project. Amber is going to transport us into a Black healing ecosystem. And then Asha is going to invite us into the sweet embrace of her gram. Ebony is going to set us up at the family table and really ground us in the importance of Black traditions of gathering. And then Patience is going to round us off in her own family traditions of practices as artisans, as healers, and creatives. And then we'll have a brief intermission, and then we'll come back and I'll introduce you to the second group of dynamic creators. And then we'll close out with some joy, with some love, with some gratitude, and give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. Leave your responses, leave your affirmations in the comment section wherever you're tuning into. And may you leave this space feeling nourished. May you leave feeling inspired. And may you leave feeling encouraged to remember who you are, whose you are, and what you came here to do. Enjoy.
it's so good to hear your voice. I can hear Reverend Brooks right now. Your uncle saying, when we were down in Sunday school, he was saying, Frida, Tia is amazing. All of them are amazing. He said, but Tia is one of a kind. I will never forget that. With tears in my eyes, thank God today that you are everything that God said you would be. Tia, God knew that when he put you in your mother's womb, that you were fearfully and wonderfully made. And today, you are a fruit of my labor, spiritually, holistically. And I thank God for you. And I'm going to let you talk now.
Thank you so much.
Hello, is this 1976 Psych? I was in the dark until I called 1976 Psych. Now I know my past, present, and my future. You can too. Call 1976 Psych.
Did Grandma ever say anything about like your future or anything you wanted to do?
No.
Did you ever have conversations like that?
No. She just basically she never really pushed us in any direction. She just wanted us to be self-sufficient. I wish I had somebody to tell me. Yeah, we didn't have it. She didn't give me the I love yous and the hugs and she didn't give us all that. She gave us the tough love, right? You better do this, you better not do that. You better not do that, you better do this. That type of deal.
Former NBA superstar Dwayne Wade now sharing the moment his 12-year-old came out to him as transgender.
I don't know if everyone knows, originally named Zion born as a boy, came home and said, hey, so I want to talk to you guys. You know, I think going forward, I'm ready to live my truth.
But it's just when I got to high school, you know how it is, everyone wants to fit in, belong, and I didn't. And at first it bothered me, but then after a while, that's when I was like, I don't want to belong. And I think that started to reflect in the way I dressed, the way I acted, even like.
You know, we were being teased unmercifully because of the way we talked. You know, we talked like Southerners, and we didn't pronounce words the way they pronounced them, and we were being teased for that. And my father, having to raise us, he know nothing about raising girls. So our hair was always just raggedy looking, you know?
Yeah.
It was not a fun time for us.
Man.
She always treated me different, but I thought it was because the way I acted. But she was like meaner with me because I look more like my daddy.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
And even as we were older, she never acknowledged it. I knew she was proud of me. I knew it. She was always there for me, supported me, helped me. She never said it, but I knew. You know, and then your dad, he told me one time after she had passed away, and he was like, he said, I used to look at her and see how she looked at you. Like she was so proud of you. And I know. I never saw her look at me like that, but he said he always saw her look at me like that. And I wish I had seen it once. You'd be looking at me like that. I know that. And I'm so glad you know that I do.
My mama said something. She said something about. She was like, she knows somebody, Ray Allen, or like.
Yes, he was Ray Austin, Uncle Allen, Ray Austin Wade. That's what he called himself. Now he was gay. Now I don't know what kind of gay he was, but he dressed like a woman. He always wanted to be a woman. He didn't want to be a man or a boy.
Oh, so he was transgender.
Okay, that might, yeah, because he wear the makeup and he went to the doctor to have hormone injections and all kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Tia is Amari now. A lot of kids can't do that. A lot of kids can't be who they want to be. They be who they need to be. And sometimes, and a lot of times, a lot of them are miserable. They have try to fit the mold, what society wants them to be, and all that. You in a whole nother stratosphere of your life that you made for yourself. And here we are.
There's a thought, a recollection, something somebody remembers. We carry these memories inside of we. Do you believe that those hundreds of Africans brought here on this other side will forget everything they once knew? We don't know where the recollection comes from. Sometimes we dream of it, but we carry these memories inside of we.
You can call it, but you can't use my phone.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine, and I'm here to share my project, which is called A Soft Place to Land. So when I first applied to Earthseed, I was already grappling with questions like, where does unexpressed grief go? Am I carrying inherited grief? Can that grief be transmuted, or can it shift? And where does it begin or end? So my journey into archiving actually began with grief. After losing my grandmother, my family and I had to go through her belongings. And it was during this time that I realized that she was a memory keeper and an archivist. And her archive not only gave me a fuller understanding of who she was beyond just being my grandmother, but it also encouraged me to expand on the family archive that she had started. So I just delved into learning more about my family history and the people that came before me. So next slide. What moved me the most were the stories of the women in my maternal lineage. It was their creativity and their losses and their resilience. Women like Mary Ella Willoughby, who was my great-great aunt. She was a journalist and an activist and later became a nurse. My third cousin, Edith Willoughby Frazier, who studied textiles and traveled the world as the first Black woman fashion buyer at her company. It was after our genogram session with Letitia James that something really clicked for me. And I started recognizing how inherited grief moves through family dynamics and also shows up in our bodies, and how it's woven into patterns of like anger and illness and addiction. And I was seeing how that specifically was showing up in my maternal lineage. And so I felt called to create a soft place for that grief to land and to be witnessed and also just honored. I didn't know what form this project would take. I applied with a certain idea and then that just, fell through. But I knew I wanted the process to be just as important as just like the project outcome, which is something we talked about as a group, which is that completion wasn't the goal and it was more so about process. And so I wanted it to be slow and intentional and done with deep care. Next slide. So I just started experimenting with like printing plates, photo transfers, distorting images, but nothing like felt quite right or I felt connected to. So I returned to the family archive for inspiration and rediscovered my great-great-grandmother, Maddie Willoughby's quilt that she made from my great-great-grandfather's old wool suits in Clark County, Georgia, which is today Athens, Georgia. Next slide. So in April, I was able to see the quilt in person while visiting Edith, who I mentioned earlier. She's currently our family matriarch and she's 95. There's a picture of me and her, and that background is the quilt. And so that moment really grounded everything for me. And I decided to create a series of quilt-inspired collages because a full quilt would have just been too ambitious considering the amount of time and just that I have basic sewing skills. But these quilts would explore how grief lives in the body and just moves through generations. Next slide. So I wanted to do a little bit of research. So I just dove into the history of Black quilt making, learning about the women of Gee's Bend, for example, Alabama. And those women are known for using bold patterns and shapes and colors. And their quilts are often called my way quilts because they mostly just follow instinct and like creative expression more than convention or perfection. And you can see some examples here. And on the other hand, Harriet Powers, whose work is in the middle, used quilts to depict biblical stories and also scenes from slavery, Civil War, and African-American folklore. And she preserved history through embroidered symbols and images, which was, I think, a really powerful way of storytelling and record keeping. So I really just wanted to celebrate this legacy of Black women passing down this tradition, including women like my great-great-grandmother. So I began to understand quilting as a practice of survival and creativity and storytelling, in a way of transforming scraps of fabric that would have been, discarded into something that was whole and sacred. So during my research, I also revisited Toni Morrison's Site of Memory, where she talks about the gaps in historical records and how for Black people, especially, what's missing is just as important as what is preserved. And she argues that imagination is not a luxury, but a necessity and just like a way of reaching into those gaps. And after reading that, it gave me kind of like language and a new perspective for what I was already feeling, which is that grief is also, often inherited and silently passed down unnamed. And that as a memory worker, my role is not just to record, but to also use my imagination to interpret and to piece together what wasn't spoken. And this reminded me of the practice of airing out the quilt and, shaking it out and letting it breathe. And this project was a way, or my way, of airing out inherited grief, unfolding what had been packed away and making space for something to be seen and felt and honored. Next slide. So I integrated all of this research and, all of the research I did on the outside and also my family archive and started creating. And I started by transferring family photos of the women in my family onto fabric. And I cut and I pieced and layered them together, really embracing fragmentation and like imperfection and complexity. So I created 4 quilt square collages, and the center portraits for each one are the women in my direct lineage. So here you see, this is my grandmother, Melba Hugh Gibbs. And so she's the center portrait, and then you can see, other images of my aunts, and just other women in my family. These are also inspired by another tradition that, I was looking into, which is Black family portraits. So once I continue this work and just adding more details and embellishments, I actually hope to frame these and have them in my home. So next slide. This is my great-grandmother, Lois M. Willoughby. You can also see other images. And I wanted to just use different colors. And I also, in honor of the resourcefulness, I mostly used clothes. And there's a thrift store where I live where they have all like recycled fabric. So I went there and got recycled fabric. Next slide. This is my great-great-grandmother, Maddie Willoughby, who made the quilt. And I also started adding some embroidery on this one, and I wanted to add more, which I will continue to do, but you can kind of see it on the left side. Next slide. And lastly, this is my great-great-great-grandmother, Lucy Stevens, who was born in 1865. Next slide. So each step really felt like an invitation to slow down and just to remember what my intention was. And this project really felt like a collaboration with my ancestors. And I believe that they've been with me throughout this process. And I've learned that, we don't just carry grief, we carry creativity and resourcefulness and brilliance. And by witnessing and tending to grief, I not only free myself, but I also help to free them. And also doing this work in community in this cohort has been transformative. And I think speaks to the fact that I think grief and grieving should be done in community and not in isolation. So I'm committed to continuing this work and expanding on this series and just creating more frameworks of healing that center tradition and care and creativity. And my hope.
Hi, beloved community. My name is Amber Arnold, and I am. Hold on. Oh.
So yes, I'm committed to continuing this work and expanding on this series. My hope is that, and my offering is that others who are navigating intergenerational grief or just family loss in general are inspired to create their own soft places to honor, to hold, and to air out what has been inherited. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amber, and I am really grateful to be part of the Earthseed Black Archival Family Project and to have had the chance to build community with all of the beautiful people here and to explore lineage and healing and the ways that our ancestors, elders, community have shaped us and that we continue to be shaped by them. And my project is an oracle deck that I started creating through this project to really explore the ways that we receive different ways of healing and nourishment and wisdom from those who inspire us. Welcome home. My name is Amber Sky Arnold, and I created an oracle deck, which is a divination tool that guides us to reconnecting with our inner wisdom and bringing it to our conscious minds in a way that allows us to make good use of its medicine. This oracle is called Healing is an Ecosystem, Mapping Black Safety from the Inside Out. It's an ode oracle. This oracle is a collection of charms and curios that I've gathered through the years of sitting at the feet of my elders and learning from, with, and alongside Black folk who have taught me everything I know about what it means to create safety and to access healing. It's a paying homage to our culture, our traditions, and the ways we have always created spaces of safety and healing. And it's a reminder that healing is an ecosystem. It's all of these little things we gather along the way. It's taking time to slow down and honor and make good use of what has been passed down to us, and being able to truly embody, feel, and witness the power in our traditions, however big or small. I'm going to share a video that shows each of the cards in the oracle and a poem that is a collection of words and sayings from ancestors, elders, teachers that have gifted portals of safety. After the video, I'm going to invite you to engage with the oracle before we go to break. So take a moment, feel your feet on the ground, feel your breath in your lungs, allow your body to settle, and just allow the cards to carry you home. One full black lily, luminescent in a homemade field of love. For June Jordan, this was home, lion spine relaxed, soulless safety, invoked and made manifest from the inside out. God is change, fluidity, emergence, all that you touch, you change, all that you change, changes you. We have been raised to fear the yes within ourselves, our deepest craving. We are each other's harvest. We get each other free. Home is the bed of flowers our elders laid down for us. With a dignified spine and a soft belly, duality, a sword of flowers to open the roads. This is our ancestral promise, encoded in the archives we gather. Moving at the speed of trust the people and they become trustworthy, or the boundaries become clear. We create time and space, how we be here and there and everywhere at the same time. The boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. What is your personal genius, mapped in collard greens, black-eyed peas, healing soul food? We map impossible possible futures, ones where we are free. In our grandmother's gardens, I can make you put your phone down. What's on the other side of all of this? Not butterflies and fireworks, but a tiny garden to rest my head. Flower work is not easy. Remaining soft in fire takes time. Be brave as in remember to remember. Mama Coral taught me, elders and minerals, elders are the stones and the bones of the earth. Widen your gaze, your width. Healing is an ecosystem. It's all around you. Our ancestors are at our backs. Who's got your back? Collard greens, don't be deceived, dripping with gold. Pleasure is our birthright. It's how we find home. A dignified anger to witness rage and safety and community at the same time. This is generational healing. The ancestral through line is calling you home, child. We go deep like cocoa butter. Massage the invocations into your skin. An ancestral gut knowing, gossiping, the type that kept us safe. It kept you alive. It protected our babies. And at the cookout, the laughter, the family, the joy will carry you home. Embodied, I am the altar. I am. We would skate and dance and smile, gold teeth spinning and swirling all around. Like pink cake, joy is revolutionary. It's mandatory. The gathering pot, collective soup, nanny, nannies, grandmothers, royalty. We gather around the dining room table. Nanny's pride and joy, how she sets the table, how she fortifies our bellies, our souls, how we get free. And Grandmama Ophelia Hampton, the rose gardens, cornbread, Sunday pies, warm hands and hearts. We bring it all together, making a flower stew. And for frazzled nerves, we turn to the forest. We turn to the altars, the uncle's medicine, the old ways. These hands, my father's hands, alchemy, bathing in flowers. These fathers that tend the babies, the through line, all the way down to the dark mother, dirt, soil, home. Remember to be here now, child. Remember your breath. You can breathe. Remember to play like the children do. Collect these charms, hold them sacred. Healing is an ecosystem. Safety is the culture we create from the inside out and in and around each other. Kin to kin, mapping Black safety from the inside out. Ashe. Now I'm going to invite you to work with the oracle. You're going to see the cards on the screen move by a little faster. Allow your intuition to guide you to pick the one that calls to you. Don't think about it too much. Just let the cards call on you. Once you choose your card, allow a word or message to arise. First thing that comes to your mind, be with that. Share it in the chat. What is this card guiding you to remember within yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Asha, and I created a audio sonic soundscape that's dedicated to my grandmother, Alma Thomas, who was my soulmate and my best friend. Everyone, my name is Asha, and sorry, I'm coming up like twice on my screen. But yeah, who was my best friend and my soulmate. She was diagnosed with dementia in 2019, and I'm really grateful to have recordings from interviews that me and my friends had done with her before the diagnosis, and then after. I continued to record her, and this project is just part one of my exploration of Black memory, spirituality, and just a reminder that memory isn't linear. So I tried to create an experience that kind of moves in and out of time and space.
I am youthful. I am youth. I am healthy. I am health. I am strong. I am strength. I am immortal. I am immortality. My name is Alma Thomas. Right. My grandkids call me Graham. I love Los Angeles. She reminded me that I had a lot of friends here, which I do. And we go on trips and we travel. So I thought about what she said and I decided to stay here. And I'm glad I did. Actually, when I graduated, I was the second highest one in the graduating class. Because I had paid my own way to the college, and I had to keep moving.
Music that I would make is between here and here. If I don't have anything to make the music with, you won't hear the music.
Do you want to talk about it? No. Is there anything we could do to make you feel better right now, or when we get home? If we have some ice cream. Okay. Well, we do have ice cream in the fridge. Well,
Once I got to LA, I came here as a teacher, and I loved it, and I loved the kids and everything. And eventually, when I retired, I was at a principal's level, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, my staff was great. My custodian, the cafeteria woman, they were all so great, and we had a good time. So that's why I like being here.
okay, so I'll talk with you when I talk with you. Okay, you enjoy yourself. I love you. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Ebony Aya, and I'm excited to share with you all the project that I've been spending some time on the last couple of months, restoring the family table. This project is near and dear to my heart because after I inherited some of my mother's artifacts after she went into a long-term group home in November, I looked around and was trying to figure out what I was going to do with these things. And the opportunity for this fellowship came up, which really gave me the opportunity to process in real time how do I make sense of these belongings, as well as the memory of us gathering together as an extended family around my grandmother's and my mother's dining room table. And so I hope that you enjoy what I put together. Peace and blessings.
And they call you little sorrow, 'cause you'll never love again.
The dinner table is an important symbol in the life of a family. For many families, it serves a dual function. Not only is it a place to serve guests, providing nourishment to their bodies, it also invites teaching, encouragement, and growth. Reflecting on the dinner table can cause feelings of sheer joy to arise as one recalls the humorous stories that were once shared over a mouth-watering meal. At the same time, such remembering can provoke feelings of anger, frustration, and sadness considering the scolding and rejection that may have taken place there, or even in recalling its absence. For me, the dinner table stirs up a mixed bag of emotions when I realize that there are not many instances where my family as a whole gathered around it. After a long
So why you wanna fly, blackbird? You ain't ever gonna fly. You ain't got no one to hold you. You ain't got no one to care.
The last time we were together as a family was around Christmas. Mama liked to always do ham. We were only like a family around the holidays. That was when Mama was more open to traditions. We could go 5 or 6 months without speaking. The only time we came together to act like a family was during the holidays. She made ham and dressing, and her sweet potato pie, and her apple turnovers that she used to make. And then there was her yeast bread. She stopped making it after we moved out. It was almost an all-day project. She could make some delicious yeast bread. The earliest memory I have when we were children growing up, I feel like I was in my teens. I can't remember too much because we were living in Gary, Indiana, going to kindergarten. And then we moved to Memphis from the age of 6 years old to 8 years old. And then I remember Mama and Daddy got back together. By the time I was in the 6th grade, Daddy moved out again. I was between 10 and 12 years old. But I used to help Mama wrap Mr. Brown's stuff. Every Christmas, she would buy us house coats, pajamas, and house shoes. And we were wrapping things for Mr. Brown's children and helping her wrap things for us. I remember being 10 or 12. We would have some really good dinners. She was more cheerful then. But then after her birthday, January 26th, things started slowing down. I would have to remind all my siblings that her birthday was coming up because everybody else would forget. So Thanksgiving to New Year's Day, it was quite pleasant living in the Hatch household. For Easter, maybe we'd get a new dress here or there. But it was between the ages of 10 and 12 that I noticed that we were a holiday family. That was mostly when we got together, the holidays.
Got me so upset. Tennessee made me lose my rest. Everybody knows about me.
Last week I was listening to the Winans. I was listening to BB and Debbie Winans sing their rendition of Lost Without You. That song always takes me to a place. Even though I grew up hearing BB and CC's version of that song, it's something about the way BB and Debbie do it that I feel like, man, takes me back to a place of my younger self. 37th and Lisbon, my mother's house. The first time I heard of the Winans, the first time I heard of BB and CC, I think my aunt introduced us to the Winans, if I'm not mistaken. Anita Baker, the Winans, Whitney Houston, Take Six, Quincy Jones, they were staples in my house on 37th and Lisbon. I love the house. I love that house. It was so big. It had this big, beautiful backyard that my mother used to garden in religiously. It had a nice sized kitchen that we spent a lot of evenings eating in, but then it had this adjacent dining room with this huge dining room table. I think about the dining room table and my insistence on having a dining room table. I think this one is about as big as the one on 37th and Lisbon that my grandmother gave us when she got rid of her dining room table. This one is a darker wood, and the one that my grandmother gave us, it wasn't mahogany, more of a chestnut color, I think, with 6 chairs, just like this table that I have here. That dining room table was typically for family coming together to eat and be together. And so when I mean family, I mean our extended family. So aunts and uncles, my grandmother, Mr. Brown, that was what the dining room table was for. But I also studied at that dining room table. So by the time I was in middle school, like 8th grade, my mother had a better job. She was working as a director of a daycare, Children's Discovery Center on Holton. Not quite North Avenue, it was a few blocks away from North Avenue, but on Holton and on the east side. And my mom, she didn't have a whole lot of resources, but she made sure, I feel like, that me and my sister Amber were provided for.
You could press play, please.
Home is archive, cloth is memory. My name is Patience Ankoma, and I'm a crafter, hobbyist, archivist, and cultural worker from Maryland. In 2017, I founded Idobia Archive, a digital project turned repository dedicated to highlighting the lives, cultures, and histories of Black people globally. My work centers on building an archive that explores Black aesthetics and lineages spanning from the 19th century to the present. I utilize a mix of personal and family histories alongside found images and materials through Idobia Archive. I examine the connection between Black identity, cultural memory, and how creativity, collecting, and craft has sustained and transformed communities across generations. Since 2019, I have been creating and distributing zines that combine my archival research and display digitized materials. These handmade publications document daily life, family histories, and creative legacies, serving as accessible tools for preserving and sharing Black life. Here is a sample of some of the materials that I have in my archive. As previously mentioned, I create zines in partnership with the archive. So here are two photos of patrons holding some of the zines that I've created at festivals in DC and in Philly. Here is a photo that I've sourced from online, and it's a photo of a pinup model from 1960, and here's a digital edit. Here is a selection of some early photos that I've found and sourced, and they're images that capture moments from a drag pageant in the late 1960s, early 70s. While sourcing and archiving, I stumbled across photos of my late auntie Renetta online, surrounded by African art from her shop. She was an artist, designer, jewelry maker, and owner of a boutique braiding lock salon called Simply Natural, located in St. Petersburg, Florida, alongside her sisters. After my grandmother passed in 2000, my auntie Renetta became the matriarch of our family, and she has played a significant role in shaping the beauty, style, and aesthetic practices that defined us. My grandmother's home was her studio, a place where she created her art and jewelry, organized and continued the creative traditions that sustained our family. I also came across an old Blogspot post and Pinterest pins featuring my auntie Drusilla, cousin Alina, and other models they work with. My aunt did the fashion styling. They were modeling for a Kankaline hair braiding brand that my aunt Drusilla created in Senegal and distributed in DC and New York. These images, along with the earlier photo of my aunt Renetta, inspired me to explore the aesthetic practices within my family and the influential sites that continue to shape how we move, create, and present ourselves. My objectives with creating this 6x6 quilt is to preserve and honor my family's history through textiles, archival materials, and visual storytelling. This living work draws from personal and family archives, including found photographs, oral accounts, inherited materials, and forged materials. It documents the everyday lives, labor, and creative practices of the women in my lineage, centering on the matriarchs and the women who hold, organize, and shape our families and world. The quilt also pays homage to the house my late grandmother Mildred left behind. It's a site of familial memory and continuity. This home, along with other important sites in my family's history, holds traces of gathering, play, labor, rest, grieving, and tradition. The house is currently uninhabitable due to degradation from a natural disaster and extreme hoarding. My family is currently working to repair the house so that we can all enjoy it as a place for respite, reliable housing for those who need it. The cloth will be kept in this house, and this project is both an archive and a tool for future generations, designed to be remembered, expanded upon, and preserved. For Earthseed, I'll present 5 perimeter panels from the quilt. These edge pieces act as anchors, holding and framing the composition and foundation, much like the women in my family. answering the ancestral call. Now I'm sharing a film clip of when I went to my grandmother's house and forged jewelry and craft supplies that were buried around the house.
What do you hope that the future generations know about the house, or how would you like them to like use the house?
You know what I do remember was the cookouts in the back, the fish fries, and the cookouts on the side of the house. And I always remember dancing on the side of the house and the back of the house. So I would say family gatherings.
Okay.
You know, the fish fries, the gatherings, the Thanksgiving, you know, dinners. And I always wanted to have the formal Thanksgiving dinners, but it was not, the house wasn't big enough for all of us to get around the table.
Okay.
So some of us would eat in the living room, and some of us would eat at the table. Yeah.
Here is my offering. The first panel is a cyanotype of my late grandmother, Mildred, in her late 40s, in her kitchen, printed on fabric, cotton fabric patched onto floral wax print cloth embroidered with hand-sewn cowrie shells. The second panel is a cyanotype of my mother and me, printed on cotton fabric, patched onto wax print cloth embroidered with straight stitch into cowrie shells. The third panel is a cyanotype of my late Aunt Renetta in 1988, printed on cotton fabric, patched onto green and black wax print cloth, bordered with wooden beads forged from the house and cowrie shells. The fourth panel is a cyanotype of me in 2023, original photo taken by Stephen Hawkins in Brooklyn, printed on cotton fabric, patched onto striped indigo fabric, embroidered with hand-sewn cowrie shells. The fifth is a cyanotype of my great-grandmother, Melissa, printed on cotton fabric, patched on striped indigo fabric, bordered with wooden beads and recycled glass beads. Design elements and inspiration. So the wooden beads forged from the side of the house were deconstructed from necklaces crafted by my auntie Renetta. The cowrie shells were used to symbolize adornment and how my family incorporated cowrie shells into their jewelry. It also symbolizes femininity, wealth, and prosperity. I also use Korobo beads, which is directly linked to my father's mother from Ghana, and it's from her hometown of Somanya. And I also used fabric scraps such as wax print and indigo, which was inspired by West and Central African commemorative cloth. I plan to complete my 6x6 quilt with an instructional care manual zine synthesizing my family research and a guide on how to care for and continue the cloth. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much to all of those amazing presenters. There's so much affirmation and love happening in the chat. We are halfway done. We are going to take a brief intermission. We're going to take a 5-minute break for you to do whatever you need to do. Get your water, get your tea, stretch, shout, however you feel like you need to ground and come back ready to hear from the rest of our dynamic cohort members. And I'll see you in a bit. So see you in 5.
There are moments in our lives that we feel completely alone. We feel as though no one knows what we're going through. It is possible to be alone and not live alone. It is possible to feel alone and not work alone. You are not alone in the battle. You're not alone in the struggle. You are not alone. But you didn't make it to where you are by yourself.
Need to write more. Freedom, fight more. Seek insight more. Ignite more. Shoot the plate more. Love despite more. Do mama, 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 clean the mess, ma. Yeah. Bless my set, ma. Say fuck the rest, ma. Buck the west, ma. Feed the nest, ma. Leave what's wrecked, ma. Do mama.
Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. Hopefully, you are nourished, feeling well, and ready to jump right back in. So, we started the day building some foundation, opening some portals, calling on some oracles, weaving different textures of memory work, memory, remembrance, and healing, and really placing our spirits, hopefully, in all of these amazing places created by our cohort members. And we move into our second half of migration, of journeying, of finding ourself in our place in our practice in doing this memory work. So we're going to open up with Erin's Mad Girl Care Library. And then after that, we're going to be getting a taste of Salt, Smoke, and Memory work by Crystal. And then Harlem's going to introduce us to what it means to be named and honor name in Insoroma. And then Gwendolyn is going to take us a journey through the Beltway with Born in the Beltway. And then we will end in a sonic embrace by Queen in the Elderberry song. And then we'll all come out on stage and greet our artists, answer some questions, and close out. And I'll pass it to you, Erin.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay. Greetings. My name is Erin Trent Johnson. I am coming to you today as Black Mama Body. Black Mama Body is a speculative archetype, a myth of dark mother leadership that I have called into my life in partnership with my ancestors over the last 5 years. I've been on a journey to heal the wounding of unmetabolized grief and diagnosed and misdiagnosed lineages of madness in a mad world. Sanity is that combination of perceptions, interpretations, teachings, and beliefs that we share with others of our community. Sanity is the tool with which we build worlds around ourselves. The smoother our interface between our personal worlds and those of others, the more sane, the more human we perceive those others to be. Octavia Butler, unpublished verse from Earthseed, The Books of the Living, from the Octavia E. Butler Papers. And this is a quote from the book Body Minds Reimagined, Disability, Race, and Gender by Sammy Schalk. I share this today as I started this project on a journey to make art about the loss of memory in my relationship with my father and dementia and a lineage of lost memory. And this experience has transformed me, and it has called me to create the living digital archive of my homemaking, the way that I make sanctuary in my home with archival materials found and gifted to me from my ancestors, from my parents, from nature. I am creating an oracular experience, and I hope that this will be a moment for you to divine and channel and receive messages from spirit to reclaim our spiritual intelligence and to allow us to bend time and to transmute the wounding that causes us to challenge or feel that there is something pathological about how we survive, how we make a way out of no way, how we hide messages of freedom in songs and dance and in plain sight. I will share the gifts for my survival that I am passing forward to future, to potentiate epigenetic possibility for mad girls of the future.
Run, Mary, run. Whoa, run, Martha, run. Whoa, Hail Mary, run, I say. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, Mary, run. Run, Martha, run. Whoa, Hail Mary, run, I say. You got a right to the tree of life. Little Mary, you got a right. You got a right to the tree of life. You got a right, you got a right. You got a right to the tree of life. The Hebrew children got a right. You got a right to the tree of life. Paul and Cyrus, you got a right.
Let everybody in the house say amen. Amen. Let the church say amen. Amen. Let the church say amen. Amen. Let the church say amen. Thank you, Jesus. I love him. Thank God. Let the church say hallelujah now. Praise the Lord. Everybody now. Everybody now. Everybody now.
Oh, watch that star, see I run. Oh, watch that star, see I run. If the star run down in the western hill, you ought to watch that star, see I run. Everybody, watch that star, see I run. Oh, watch that star, see I run. If the star run down in the western hill, you ought to watch that star, see I run. Remember.
Just a closer walk with thee. 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 Jesus, just a closer walk with thee. 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 Let it be, dear Lord. Just a closer walk. Let it just a closer walk with thee. Hallelujah, Lord, I am weak, but thou art strong. Just a closer walk with thee. Jesus keeps me from all wrong. Just a closer walk with thee.
called Move Daniel. Amen. See, Daniel was a slave man, and the slaves all was having a little party across the field one day. And as the smokehouse was up there, we call it the smokehouse, the place that the old boss keep all his meat. And they wanted to steal some of the meat, you know. And so they sent Daniel in to get a piece of meat so they could put the party on, sure enough. And old boss was coming down through there. So the slave going to sing a song to let Daniel know to get out the way. Because Daniel could pick it up and put it down. You know, I mean that fast run. That's what I'm talking about. And so the old boss thought that they were singing a party song, but they were telling Daniel how to get out the way so that old boss wouldn't put that whiplash on him. So I'm going to sing the song. I just want to let you all know why we sing the song Move Daniel. Move Daniel, move Daniel, move tell you move Daniel, move tell you move Daniel, move tell you move Daniel. Oh Lord, where's Santa gone? Oh Lord, Santa gone to hell. Move tell you move Daniel, move tell you move Daniel. Go the other way, Daniel, go the other way, Daniel. Rock tell you rock, Daniel. Rock tell you rock, Daniel. Shout tell you shout, Daniel. Shout tell you shout, Daniel. Oh Lord, where's Santa gone? Oh Lord, Santa gone to hell.
And one other song I remember my mother would sing when I was a very small child, and we would be out in the field picking cotton. And, you know, looked like they would be looking for something better, and she would express herself, and other people would express themselves by singing some of the songs, and, you know, looked like we could work harder. And one of the songs my mother would sing is, I'm gonna land on the shore, I'm gonna land on the shore, I'm gonna land on the shore where I'll rest forevermore. The preacher in the pulpit with a Bible in his hand, he's preaching to the sinners, but they just won't understand. I'm gonna land on the shore, I'm gonna land on the shore, I'm gonna land on the shore where I'll rest forevermore.
Hey y'all, my name is Crystal Mons, daughter of Alex Mons and Karen Richardson. I was raised on Southern soil in sacred memory. This project is my offering, a medicine, an honoring of care work passed through my bloodline, and a call forward for generations to come. Salt, smoke, and memory is the beginning of a living offering to trace, to tend, and to honor the ways that care has moved through my family lines. Care in my family looked like so many things. My mom planting trees and rose beds on the land where the house stood that my dad built for us. Gang Gang, one of my great-grandmothers, keeping strawberry shortcakes ready on summer days. Kara looked like fish cleaned after catch, gumbo stirred with loving hands, even his music filling the home. It looked like castor oil with lemon, syrup of black draw, menthol on the chest, and burnt cornstarch.
Burning cornstarch in a cast iron skillet to get rid of diaper rash. And you burn it until it gets brown, and you put it in Ziploc bags like baby powder, and you put it on for diaper rash. And of course, now we know the cornstarch absorbs the wetness, so it keeps the wetness from the skin, so it heals diaper rash really fast. Come to think about it, that actually came from my child's grandmother, because I had my kids in Atlanta, Georgia. And I remember her at the stove burning that cornstarch and putting it in the Ziploc bags and bringing it to me. And she was the one that put the $50 on my kids' navels too.
I remember having German measles when I was little. And it was just like nobody could come in the room with me, and the room had to be dark, and it was been very contagious too. And so they, like the windows weren't open.
Care was also prayer, in Catholic whispers, in missionary Baptist shouts and hands lifted high, in crescendoed harmonies. It continues to show up. It was my aunt as a nurse. It is my brother as a paramedic. It is me as a healing practitioner, teaching yoga and offering community care. Tending this line also means being honest about the harder truths. Gang Gang is believed to be the product of assault. Some say by a slave master, others a milkman or a mailman. Nobody ever knew him or saw him. There were no pictures, and he was never talked about.
I think my grandmother, I think that maybe I don't really know how to say it. I think she may have been a slave master's kid. Like they never really talked about her father. We never saw pictures or anything like that. Pom Pom's child, which was my grandmother, which was my daddy's mama. To this day, I couldn't tell you what his name was, what he looked like, or nothing like that. That was never talked about. We never saw pictures or anything. Now, I've seen pictures of my daddy's daddy, which we never saw him either, but we were told he died when daddy was 2, and I actually saw pictures of him. But I never saw pictures of him. I often wonder back in those times if, it could have been one of the slave masters, because she was also light skin again, hair texture and all of that. It just kind of, you know what I mean? You have those questions because it was never talked about.
I remember Gang Gang telling me my great grandmother, which we called her Pom Pom, was raped by like the milkman or something back in the day. And that's Gang Gang's daddy. She was dark, and had long black hair.
Still, through Gang Gang and her mother, Pom Pom, came a culture of care. She was the one who took people in, made sure they were fed and well. Even where violence tried to plant itself, care took deeper root.
Every time someone would need somewhere to stay, they stayed with my grandmother. She took in her kids, she took in daddy when things happened to him. That was just her. She took in me and my sister. I mean, if you needed anything, when my dad's sister and her kids didn't have anywhere to go, she moved them in the house over there. When her mom got sick, she moved her in the house over there. When her sister got sick, she moved her in the house. When daddy had come out the hospital one time. We were staying together, and my stepmom wasn't going to take care of him. He stayed over there with her for a while when we were kids, and she came and picked us up from Louisiana. We stayed there for a while. I mean, so everybody would go to her house. Caregiver, even funds. If anybody needed money or was running short on money, they would ask my grandmother and grandfather.
When I asked about dreams for the future of our bloodline, it was about freedom. Still, it's always been about freedom. To live without fear, to be successful and happy, to gather again in one big space, all sides of the family, learning just how far back our lines reach. The reminders were clear. Remember the fights that made our lives possible. Know where you come from, so nobody can scare us away from our roots.
Strive to always be better. Don't settle. Do what makes you happy, not to try to please someone else. Don't let anybody ever tell you what you can't do. I hope and wish that everybody will be successful and do something that they love.
For our family, I wish that we could all get together and have a family reunion and try to dig back as far as we can with our ancestors and get people from everywhere. I want my daddy's side, I want my mama's side, and have a family reunion. And for Creole people, always make sure when people say little ugly things about you from Louisiana, you're going to put voodoo on me and all that kind of stuff. Know your history so you can fight back. They still do that to this day. When somebody say, where are you from, Louisiana? Oh, you do that voodoo and that. I mean, that's the first thing that comes out of people's mouths. It's portrayed to be the devil. And that's what people will say. You will go into some religions and they will say that voodoo is the devil's work. And it's not. I mean, it's our protection. It's our culture. It's our way to cope. It's our peace mechanism. It's a cultural thing that they don't understand, and they need to understand before they start speaking negative on it.
Much of this line of care was also about justice. My grandpa Eddie Richardson, started newspapers, Juneteenth celebrations, a chamber of entrepreneurs, and so many spaces for Black folks in Lubbock. And not just in Lubbock. His net of care was cast wide, and it started at home. On his way out, he knew that his daughter was on her way over to provide that care and a meal that she often did, that he always provided both of his daughters. He used to say, "You get back what you give in life. Everything comes back to you tenfold." And that care was reciprocal.
He was a civil rights activist. There's actually a old elementary school that is renamed with his name, the Eddie Price Richardson Head Start. He founded a newspaper there, Lubbock Digest, and then some years later they changed the name to Southwest Digest, and it was just a weekly publication. He was the founder of the Lubbock Black Chamber of Entrepreneurs, but the newspaper thing led him to be a member of the Texas Publishers Association and the National Newspaper Publishers Association. He was a leader of the Lubbock Emancipation Celebration Committee. He was a founder of the Juneteenth celebration in Lubbock. Later led to him being appointed to the Texas Juneteenth Cultural and Historical Emancipation Commission and Lubbock Juneteenth celebration. He just did a lot in the Black community.
He had a TV show that he founded called What's Going On. He did a lot for the community, and he was to me like a silent soldier. He just did everything and didn't want any credit for it, didn't want, wasn't out for publicity. He was just doing it to help. And so that's what meant the most to me, is that he was always willing to do things and help things for the Black community without wanting to be patted on the back for it.
This is Salt, Smoke, and Memory, tracing a Southern lineage of care. And this is just the birthing stage of deep listening and a living altar to tend the line that never broke. I offer this not just to my own bloodline, past, present, and future, but to every Black, Southern, Creole soul who has ever wondered just how far back their tending goes. May we keep learning. May we keep being fed by the gifts of our ancestors, and may we continue to pass them on.
Harlan. Yep. Did you miss me? I hadn't seen you in a while. Of course.
Good morning. Today we will be baptizing one baby, and the baby's name is
Hey, this is Tiger's Dad with Matt. I'm glad you got to see her.
Yeah, you know how it is. Look at you and just want to see them. Sometimes you just want to hear their voice. That's all.
Like it's about chasing a dream.
Right.
What's your
They
dream
think-
for you, Mama? What's your dream?
I think I've done everything that I wanted to do. Yeah, I wanted.
Guillotine my head as keepsake. I collect dreams in the well of my black mind, a repository of dismembered black dolls. Somewhere in this apartment is a photo album I've kept, post the basement flood in '04. Still life, each fair weather friend resting in the shade between my teeth. I've kept all the pinky swears, snapshots of their mamas jacking to house in the living room. I keep remnants of a bygone society. Keep some cognac on the shelf for libation and new moon floor wash for homes that are never mine to keep. Kept Florida water fermented in rosehip to ginger me a young hot ebony. Kept the yearbook clippings with dead names of dead classmates. Pen tacked their eulogies on my tongue. For gratitude, I keep a body on me. Stay in limerence outside Northside bars. Liquor my scalp in the potential of some Delta's black daughter. Time warped to mouthful what church they grew up in and what high school they went to and how young they were when the world ended. Advanced to us, sharing a bar stool, lip-locked and cosplaying the Holy Ghost, bartering fermented breaths for new secrets of the day. Kissing is the closest I get to giving my mind away. Wonder if my great aunt felt the same. I've kept all the drunken banter, slurred sentiments dormant in my throat. This mouth can hold boiling water. A reservoir of gun smoke I keep loaded just in case. Hoard a still shot of every monstrous face, forced a half-committed I love you. As in, all the old desires and old diaries I've kept. A arm's cachet of dreams deferred. Once I peeled back the plastic from off my great-grandmother's good chair without permission and burned our hairs yoked in with the cotton. Was taught even revenants sometimes return by fire. Last night, I raised up a young dead thing from a cigar box I keep brimmed with charred film, a blackened nebula of lovers, sometimes smiling, mid-blinked, resting Taurian in child's pose, or tilted over a countertop, tending to the portals, a seasoned cast iron, and some high heat forms. I've kept the gas stove on in case they return to season me.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Gwendolyn Christina Rogers, and my project, Born in the Beltway, is a speculative history and Black migration story inspired by my conversations with my maternal grandmother, Gwendolyn Barbara James Jameson Gardner Wright, and influenced by the work of Isabel Wilkerson, Henry Louis Gates, and as well as Dr. Sadia Hartman in terms of reimagining what the histories of our lineage were. And the larger project is a novel, and I'm happy to share with you all some excerpts of what I've written And I hope that it inspires other folks to delve deeper into their family histories, and to contribute to the larger narratives and really explore the migration of Black peoples. Thank you.
You were talking about Viola, your grandma.
Yeah, that was her. Yeah, grandma. Viola James.
And how she had plenty money.
Oh, yeah, she was a rooming house owner. She had about 4 bedrooms, and she owned all those homes. And she would send me to all of them, give me the receipt booklets to collect the rent. And then when I knock on the door, who is it? I come to collect the rent. I act just like my grandmother. And then I give them their receipt.
It is my hope that in looking back in my own family, searching and examining the lives of my ancestors in as much as I am able, that will be a bridge to healing and perhaps an example to others. Every day for as long as I can remember, and before she now no longer remembers, my maternal grandmother, Gwendolyn Barbara James Jameson Gardner Wright, pleaded the blood of Jesus over the whole family. As I'm writing this now, there is still the grape juice stained family portrait hanging from her 65th birthday in the family room. All of her children and their spouses and her 10 grandchildren. She is now up to over 20 great-grandchildren. She then goes down to her living room to pray in front of her mother, brother, and grandmother, Viola Washington James. It is Viola's story that I will share first. I will tell you how my Gigi and mother told me. I will then tell their stories and mine. It is not pretty, not always. It is not ugly, not always. What it is a real history and legacy, one with rises and falls and lessons. Viola's story is just one and just a window into her life and those of other Black women of her time. Where possible, I will provide pictures and documents to correlate. However, this will largely be an oral history retold, in some instances reimagined. The language would be as it was, and as it is now, at least for my family and their community. Let the telling of this truth bring forth a new and renewed sense of family, of community. Let us tell the truth and shame the devil. Amen. Come on, Mr. James. Hurry up now. Grab those bags. Train be leaving soon. Viola has a tall, commanding presence. A 6-foot-tall, blue-black woman who darkens the door and lights up the room at the same time. She has been in South Carolina for as long as she can remember, raised by her grandmother, who used to be enslaved, going all the way back to her first African ancestors who struggled to stand on these shores from the putrid, crowded ships they arrived on. We finally getting the hell out of South Carolina. Good riddance to this shit and these no good niggas down here. We not finna stay around here where there is money to be made up north. DC, here we come. Viola looked around that old house, if you could even call it a house, where she had her 2 boys, where her mother had her and her sister. It was one large room, partitioned only with pallets on the floor to indicate the sleeping spaces and a cooking hearth that went up through the chimney. She turned and left. She, her husband, Mr. James, and their 2 boys, they were taking the train to Washington, D.C. to start a new city life, away from the small country town of Springfield, South Carolina. Those country fields where niggas picking, planting, and plowing had no longer been bearable enough. Not when there was industry and opportunity up north. You just needed moxie and money to make it. Viola made arrangements with Sis, her sister, to keep watch over her 7 acres while she went up north to make more money. She would be sending money back down to Sis and her husband Sam in Springfield for looking after things. Viola and Sis were in a gospel singing group together called the Morning Glory Gospel Singers. Their group was a hit with all the Black Methodist churches in their hometown, and they even made a trip up to D.C. to their sister church to perform. That is when Viola got the notion to move up there herself. She was more enterprising than Sis. It was Viola who got it so they could keep the land that G-Ma and Pa had since after slavery times. She did all of that with only a 3rd grade education. That was all many Black children in the South could expect. Her reading wasn't all the way there, but she had a head for business. She knew almost instinctively how to make money. Viola saved the extra money she made selling cakes and pies. She was the best baker in town, hands down. Whites and blacks would pay for her to bake for their special occasions and, of course, the bake sales at the fairs and churches. She knew she wouldn't have any problem finding work in the kitchen once she got to D.C. She and Mr. James have also been long members of the local African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church in their hometown and made contact with their sister church in Washington, D.C. The members of the church in D.C. had already given her leads on who was hiring blacks in the city and places where you could find a place to rent. She had packed plenty of food for them to take on their hours-long train ride from Springfield, South Carolina to D.C. Fried pork chop sandwiches, biscuits, and honey. They would need good food in their stomachs to help them transition to a new city and a new way of life. They were on their way, ready or not.
carry medicine in their bones. Elderberry songs for those who carry medicine in their bones. Elderberry songs for those who carry medicine in their bones. 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 Elderberry bends beneath a memory. Dark-skinned fruit with stories steeped in sun. Syrup thick tart with the knowing of generations wrapped in sweet resistance. Of generations wrapped in sweet resistance. Sweet resistance. Sweet, 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 sweet resistance. For those who carry elderberry songs. For those who carry medicine in their bones. For those who carry medicine in their bones. She grows where the river hums a hymn, where the soil holds the breath of two lands. The breath of two lands. Minnesota pines and Mississippi cotton. Two poles, one in the north and one in the south. One black pulse and a river to share. Elderberry songs. In the Delta, she thrived in the shade known by grandmothers who stirred her into healing. In the North, she rose again, painted by hands that fled the noose and carried roots stitched into skirts. Elderberry songs. Mississippi heat and Minnesota frost. Two poles, one in the north and one in the south. One black pulse and a river to share. Mississippi heat and Minnesota frost. Minnesota pines and Mississippi cotton. Two poles, one in the north and one in the south. One black pulse and a river to share. We gotta go back to where we came from and remember. We gotta remember, we gotta remember, we gotta remember, we gotta remember, so that we can go forward. We gotta go back so we can remember. So we can remember. So we can move forward. We gotta go back and remember so we can move forward. Elderberry songs. Elderberry bends, it bends, it bends.
Go ahead and start speaking, Queen.
Hi, I am Queen Drea, and that is a beginning of a work, a larger work called Born on the 4th of July. from Mississippi to Minnesota, which is me chronicling my mother's life, who she was born in Mississippi, and her migration to the Twin Cities. And it's interesting that today, that this presentation is happening today, because here in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is where I'm from, we are celebrating and honoring the Rondo community, which is a Black neighborhood that was divided by the creation of I-94. And so it's just like full circle that this is happening today on this day and I grew up in Rondo when my family moved here from Minnesota. So, and I chose elderberry songs because elderberry is a medicinal plant and fruit that is indigenous to both Mississippi and Minnesota. And we got to go back there and remember where we came from so we can move forward. Blessings to my nephew.
Thank you so much, Queen, and to all of the cohort members. A round of applause to you all. And I invite you all onto the stage, if you will, so that you can go ahead and receive your applause, receive your affirmation, take your bow. And let everyone see the beautiful creators behind the creations. Yay! Oh, family. I'm just so touched by you, by this work. And I am really, really, really excited to just hear more from you about your experience and about the offering today. And before we do that, again, just so much gratitude to y'all. My heart is just so full that you trusted me and my kinfolk to create just a journey and a pathway that you could opt into or opt out of. So thank you for saying yes. Before we get into Q&A, I wanted to give folks Harlem and Amari, both of you decided to kind of just present your work without introduction. So I wanted to give you both the opportunity to tell us a little bit about your work. What is it that you were hoping folks got from it, and what was the invitation in your sharings? And then remind us of your titles again so folks can know. Harlem, I'll start with you.
Hey. Yeah, thank you, family. Literally, thank you for sharing all of y'all work, all of y'all A down. My film was a poetry film kind of collage. Essentially, I named it Saroma, which is roughly translates to the Adinkra symbol. Quite literally could be translated to the star and also child of the heavens. And yeah, I think I really just wanted it to play without my kind of rambling explanation of it, and just to see just sort of the impact of the visuals that I put in to try to tell the story behind, in addition to the poem. The poem I put in there is a work I wrote called Hoarding, essentially recollecting all the things that I've kept with me, stuck on my body, and in my spirit that are like learned and not learned. So yeah, I just wanted y'all to, you feel me, get in tune with it. But yeah.
And in tune with it, we were. People were definitely making comments in the chat. Amari, could you share a bit? Oh, did I lose Amari? Is Amari still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, could you share a bit about your project? Remind us, you opened us up, but remind us of the name, the title, and what calling were you answering with this particular offering?
Yeah, so hey everybody, I'm Amari. I'm a poet and performance artist and educator and a number of other things. But today I was a sound artist and I made a soundscape of what I like to call the Afro trans future, which is like a reimagined world where Black trans folks are at the center of it. And so it's reckoning with the past, what Black gender expression embodiment looks like with ancestral reverence included. And so the soundscape I made it, I wanted it to feel like we were jumping in and out of different portals and different time periods. And so I used different clips and found media to weave it into the different parts of my family interviews that I collected. And ironically enough, throughout those interviews, I didn't really have to do much prodding or pushing for them to start talking about how gender showed up in their life. But that was the common line that I saw from with my daddy experience. My mama, the older lady that when she was like, I don't know what kind of gay he was, and she was talking about one of my transcestors. Yeah, that's my granny sister, and my Sunday school teacher was at the beginning. So I wanted to put some parts from the past of who I was pre-transition, and then some parts who I am now, and then the journey of that, and then how my family kind of created a safe space for me to be who I am all the way and what that looked like from back then when my ancestor was alive and then to now as I am transitioning. So yeah, I hope y'all get what I was putting down and I really enjoyed that. It's probably one of my favorite pieces. But yeah, I just want us to time travel and portal jump a little bit. So
Thank you so much. I definitely felt like that mission was accomplished. Every aspect of it, from the sounds of nature to the interviews to just also knowing a little bit more about your story. It was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm also really interested and can see themes around texture, physical artifacts, the things we can put our hands on. I'm thinking about your project, Jasmine. I'm thinking about your project, Ebony, like the actual physical table. I'm thinking about your project, Patience, all of those beautiful jewelry pieces that you found and being called to use your hands and create. I wonder if the three of you can just come up and just answer the question around, how important is it for us to honor these sacred artifacts? What makes an artifact or something sacred? And then what call were you answering in your projects? I'll start with you, Ebony.
Sure. So thank you for that question. And I'll try to remember the different pieces of it. For me, I think I've always been collecting artifacts before I realized that they were important. And so the first two things that I think were in my collection were these black angels that were in my room when I was a kid. And I don't know where they came from. I don't know who gave them to me. But when I moved from Milwaukee to Minnesota back in 2001, the angels came with me. And they've been with me in every house and or apartment I've lived in since. One is now broken. I need to repair. It's the one that's been broken since I was a kid. Maybe I broke it initially. Maybe someone else did. Um, but like when I think about just like how I have collected things since the time I was young, like jewelry, dolls. I still have my Fraggle Rock doll. Just like different things over the trajectory of my life. It feels like something from the great beyond has been calling me since the time that I was younger. I don't lose things. I wouldn't call it hoarding because I'm selective about what I keep and what I get rid of. But it's just there's, and then when I think about what was in my mother's house, so when I think about the video that I recreated, the living archive is, and I call it living because my mother is still living, even though her health has seriously declined. It's the living archive because these are things that are interspersed with things she gave me, things my dad gave me, things that I've collected on my own that I want to remember for myself, but that I also want my kids to remember. And so a couple of months ago, as we were coming back from Milwaukee, I asked my kids, like, when you think about my house and growing up in where we are, what are the things in our house that you would say are quintessential mom? and they're like elephants, this Nefertiti statue, and that I have that was my mother's, and plants. And those are the same things that I would say like are the things that remind me of my mother. And so for me, it's also about like that legacy. It's like I want my kids to remember in 20, 30 years. I want them having the same conversations with their children about the things that have been meaningful to us as a family and as a people. And then you asked something about like where the call, who's calling you. I feel like my grandmother has been answered since 2020. I feel like she's been calling. But there's been a greater call even before she became an ancestor of this desire to archive the family stories. And so the opening text that I read from, I started writing that book in 2005, and that was exactly 20 years ago. And so that opening story about the family table, before I had really lost much of the family, I feel like there was just the knowing about what was coming, and me starting to just write those things down back then when I was a very young 20 something. Thank you.
Thank you. And the same question to you, Jasmine, and then I'll hear from you, Patience. This question of like textural artifacts and physical artifacts, and why or if that's important for us to consider when we're thinking about artifacts, and what makes an artifact sacred. And then a little bit more about the call that you feel like you are answering with the project that you presented today.
So when I think about artifacts, I think of how when I first started this work, which has always been really with physical archives, like I mentioned, I started with my grandmother's belongings. I always thought of her holding on to so many photographs and just like documents that I always questioned, like, why does she keep them? Like old, for example, medical records, or like, you know, student records from when she was in college. And I always thought of it as like evidence. So like her keeping these things were just a way for her to, you know, say like her existence mattered. And it was evidence of her existence and of our families. And so I think that's what makes it sacred. And like Ebony said, I've always kept things as well. And I don't know if that's just something that, you know, was inspired by my grandmother, but like I have every card that I've received since I was young, and just, yeah, like just little different things. So I think it's just like evidence of my existence, especially like I said in my presentation, you know, there's so many gaps in our historical records. And I think traditions like quilting were a way for us to be like participants in our remembrance. And so I think having these artifacts is a part of that process. So yeah, the work for me is just continuing that legacy and holding on to these physical artifacts. And yeah, I think that is the calling for me. Thank you.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you ask me the question again, please?
Yeah, I'm curious about why you were drawn to like physical things, artifacts to focus on, and what you consider makes these artifacts sacred, or what makes an artifact sacred. And then what calling were you answering with your project?
Okay. To me, what makes the artifact sacred that I located around the house, it represented multiple sites that were attached to what originated from the house. So like I mentioned, the natural hair braiding salon, that was a really big thing for my family because that allowed a lot of them to become self-sufficient, and also to take pride into their natural beauty, and also to communicate that to their community as well. In particular, my aunt Renetta, who was the jewelry designer in our family, and we also have other crafters in our family, but she was like the main one. Um, a lot of the things that I saw on the ground were images that I saw in the shop. Like I saw the things in the shop. So to me, that was a link that I have to my family's history, in terms of being in the beauty industry, in terms of self-styling and aesthetics, and in terms of also creating. So that's what I took out of that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much again for sharing your gifts and your project. My next question is actually for Gwen, Erin, and Asha. Some of the themes that I found from all of your stories is the three of you spoke pretty poignantly around memory loss and working with elders who are close to us, who are holders of stories and legacy, and working with them during process of losing memory. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how, if and how that impacted your project. I think that it also speaks to a level of urgency, just on a greater collective of why cultural preservation and memory work is so important. So could you talk a little bit more about, navigating and holding what it means to face memory loss as a memory worker, and how and if that influenced your project in any way? I'll start with Gwendolyn.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm happy to go first. So as you all saw, I introed Born in the Beltway, with an excerpt of me interviewing my maternal grandmother, my Gigi, who I'm named after. And in that excerpt, that was probably at the early stages of her developing Alzheimer's, and she was in this space where she was, remembering those earlier stories more vividly, right? So she was thinking a lot about her grandmother and wanted to communicate what she remembered about that. And I was just, in that moment, I just felt compelled to start recording. It just was almost kind of like this instinctual feeling like, oh, I should get this on video, and, kind of give her some prompts and then let her just go off. And that was the video was a lot longer than that excerpt that I showed. But I used that to kind of foray into talking about Viola, who was her grandmother. And that process for me, as I'm in looking back, I'm also thinking forward, because now I have a niece and nephew and younger cousins and things, and I want to be able to tell them the stories of their people so they can have that further knowledge as well. And, it's definitely, they call Alzheimer's kind of like the long goodbye. And so having these moments and, being able to remind her of things or just talk to her about things as she's progressed in her disease. I mean, it's definitely been a healing project for me, and it makes me think about how I will remember her and want her to be remembered.
Thank you. Erin, do you want to share?
Yes, and thank you, Gwendolyn. Oh, yeah, I think that when I started this project, as you know, Joshana, I very much had this like clear vision of how I wanted to work with the capturing the memory, right? And this kind and the urgency, capturing the stories from my father, and also weaving in the gaps in stories that existed before he had Alzheimer's, the gaps in stories that lived in my family because of family separation, because of incarceration, and many patterns of the ways in which family members were stigmatized or put away, hidden away, where memory was lost because of shame. And I was trying to track and get as much information in this like very graspy way from my dad. And I think what came through so powerfully for me was that my work was to work with this grief. And so I very much feel, I think, what it means to create a living archive, even as I created the exhibit within the Care Library, which is all in my office. My home office has been a healing sanctuary for me And I sit there and I do work with my ancestors and call to them. And I've had two that have come very clearly over the last 5 years who have been helping me and guiding me in how to be in this long goodbye transition, how to reclaim my spiritual gifts and to receive the information that comes through dreams when he's preparing me, when they're preparing me. And so the spiritual intelligence that I have reclaimed has really, I think, come through this ritual practice that I have brought into my life. And so when I thought I was going to create this like very specific memoir project, it really became about capturing the living archive of my healing journey in relationship to this deep grief and the lineage of the loss of memory, but also the ability to reclaim and transmute the wounding. I do this as a speculative history artist to ask the questions of what if, what if Fannie Lou Hamer had the care that she needed? What if my great grandmother, who still practiced the juju, who was a numbers bookie, who was the one that cared for my father, the one that I believe is helping me with him now. What if Black folks weren't exploited and the lottery was used as a way to continue to extract resource? So I think about how this process has been alchemizing and how I am changing my relationship with anticipatory grief. This has allowed me to be with and metabolize and be present and then capture the wisdom of that as a gift to pass forward to the future.
Ashe. And did we lose Asha? Oh, there you are. Asha, thank you so much for sharing that, Erin. And Asha, I extend the same question to you around navigating memory loss as a memory worker, and how that navigation informs your project, if at all.
Thank you. And I really resonate a lot. Am I coming in clearly? Okay. I resonate a lot with what Gwendolyn and Erin shared. This definitely was a grief project. Alzheimer's and dementia definitely is like a long goodbye, like the longest goodbye. You're grieving for so long the person that you knew. And also coming to know a new version of them. And so this project for me was mostly about like validating memory, because I feel like so much when folks are experiencing memory loss, they are kind of just like invalidated. Like people don't really listen to them or really center their experiences and just kind of assume that they're not with us. But a lot of times, like they are accessing different parts of their memory, different parts of spirit. My grandmother was in her early stages of dementia. She was very in touch with spirit and would share lots of things about like her parents, and she could access things like different smells that would lead to different memories that like I had never experienced her in that way before. So yeah, similar to Gwendolyn, I also when she was alive felt called to just start recording her. And even when she did start to lose her ability to communicate as clearly as before, I at first was afraid to continue recording her because it was really hard. But I'm really glad that I did, because I think all the range of her memory and the range of the emotions that she experienced throughout her life are important and valid. So yeah, this project was definitely like a way for me to just honor her, and not kind of like cast her aside at her more vulnerable moment, where I feel like a lot of people can do that with elders at that time. So
That That's just so touching. Thank you so much. All of your answers remind me of the importance of grace and care in this work. And it brings me to the last three folks that I wanted to raise up and give a chance to hear more from, Amber, Crystal, and Queen. All three of your works was very specific and clear about the type of healing and the type of medicine that you wanted to offer all of us through the legacy of your own history. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about, from this project, what is it that the medicine that you found that your ancestors are leaving behind, or want us to grapple with right now, whether in your own personal work, but just as an offering to all of us. And I'll start with you, Crystal.
Yes. What is the medicine that my ancestors are leaving behind? I first want to talk about, just as a Taurus, like food, cooking, being in the kitchen, like all of these things are important and healing. And also, I mean, thinking about food as medicine, it is like, it is sustenance. It's what we put in our bodies can make our bodies better or make our bodies unhealthy, right? Or poisonous even. And so I definitely want to uplift the importance of sustenance, growing food, like the things that we put in our body and the care put into maintaining, harvesting, cooking, all of those things are important. Another thing that I want to talk about as far as like the medicine, specifically my piece around justice as care work. I think it's just so necessary for us as Black folks, honestly, anybody that is non-white living in the United States of America, to recognize the tenderness, the grace, the care that has to be integrated into justice work. One of the things that I said in the piece that I really had to sit with, and take a moment of gratitude for, was that my grandpa Eddie actually did start at home. Like a lot of times in movement spaces, we see people doing so much for the world or the larger Black community, and those things are very necessary and, move us in ways that we need to be moved. And there is a thing that can be said about folks who do all of this stuff for other people, but the work has to start at home. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the family is the sacrifice. Sometimes the partner is the sacrifice. And I really am grateful for the ways that I have learned more about just how much medicine my grandpa put out into the world, and also that it started with his daughters.
Ashe, thank you for that reminder that it starts at home. Amber, I'll ask you next the same question around your call to focus on healing, and what, if any, medicine do you feel like you're learning from your ancestors through this project?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I feel like the thing that has been coming up for me, and that's come up for me through this project, and kind of really the inspiration behind the deck, has been around the medicine and fragmentation. And in all of these pieces, like the medicine bag is the medicine bag because of the curios, the charms, the amulets, the herbs, the salt, the invocations, the prayers that we put into it. That's where the medicine comes from. And that, you know, this idea of like healing as an ecosystem. It's not just this one thing, like going to therapy or maybe like a practice or a way of being that might not be accessible to everybody. Healing is really like all of these little things that are surrounding us all the time that we can access and that we can reclaim, the ways that our elders and our ancestors worked with the kitchen as a space of medicine, right? Like before a lot of us lost access to our traditions, that's where we would go to make our soups, to make our stews, to work with herbs and plants and meat and fruit and vegetables and all of these things as medicine, like Crystal was saying. And how, you know, along the way we get to gather these little charms and these little amulets that come in the form of maybe a word that somebody said, or maybe an experience we had, or maybe a plant that we connected with, or maybe some little piece of something that we found on the ground, a coin or something, but that all of these experiences contain ashe, they contain life force, they contain the stories that allow us to build our medicine bag and to really start to experience the medicine we have access to all around us. And that healing is all of a culmination, an ecosystem of all of these different experiences that we get to have access to through community, through working with our ancestors, through a good old kiki or hanging out with friends or going to a barbecue or wherever we may find ourselves.
Yes, thank you so much for that reminder. And then Queen, I'll end with you. You offered us a melody of healing modalities, from medicinal to movement to sound. Could you talk a little bit about why you felt called to offer this medicine to us in this form, and anything else that comes up for you about your experience?
Yeah, sure. I mentioned that it's a part of like a larger, this work is part of like a larger project idea uh, that I'm working on. And it's really an artistic and research based way to get my family reconnected with land we own in Mississippi. And which is why, and so that's what the healing is. And that's why, again, like I said, I chose the elderberry, because I was looking for something that is alive and that is medicinal, that is indigenous to both states, Mississippi and Minnesota. And that that you find elderberries along streams and lakes and rivers and things like that. And so I imagine that the Mississippi connecting us and through medicine and through my mother's journey and our journey as a family. We are just not, like, our parents hated, and they had a struggle in the South, and they left, and they took us there for a while, and we just kind of faded away from it, but we still own land there. And the one person who was stewarding it the most passed recently. And so that is the reason why I'm trying to like heal my family's, like, I almost want to call it an aversion to it, because of, what our parents have experienced that they don't really even talk about. And so I really hope to be able to, this project, when a friend of mine who was a part of it last year told me about it, I was like, I needed to like have that foundation of researching, and different ways of researching and trying to understand how we became disconnected, and trying to understand how we can be reconnected. In the video, the house that you see is the house my mom grew up in. And so that's why it's always behind all the other pictures of my family, because I'm trying to imprint it on us in some kind of way. Through the Mississippi and through the medicine that can be found in elderberry and other medicinal life forms along the way. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Queen. I think your goal to make that message clear and weave those things together was accomplished as a viewer. Oh my gosh, y'all, that is the end of Cohort 3 Earthseed Black Family Archive Project Showcase. Woo! Y'all did it. I am I'm just so excited. I'm proud. I'm full. I am just beaming with so much light. The beauty that you all offered the world today, I'm moved by. Thank you all who tuned in. Thank you all again to the tech team, to LaShonda, to Jalen, to Kinkofa. We thank you for holding us down and for making sure that we were seen, that we were heard, and that we were organized. Yes, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you to the ancestors that showed up in this space. May we all know your voice. May we all know your impact. May we all know what it means and feels like to be guided by you. Because we truly believe that by including you in the fight for freedom, for liberation, for justice, for healing, there's nothing that we can't do. It's an automatic win. So all we have to do is show up and be patient, and be generous with each other and show each other a whole lot of grace. And I thank every last one of you for showing up each and every month to do just that. I pray you well. Nourish yourself. Be well. Have a great one. Bye. Yay!